Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose, and today has been filled with, I'd say, mostly great news. I mean, unless you're a Highgaurd fan, in which case, well, things aren't exactly looking too good for that game. We're going to get into that as well, but I do have some great news for Xbox and for Nintendo fans especially. I mean, on one side, we are going to talk about an upcoming Nintendo Direct because a lot, and I mean a lot, just leaked out online. But we're also going to talk about a game that really has proven all of the naysayers wrong that just released on Xbox and on the Nintendo Switch 2. So stick around and we're going to get into all of that. But first, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with the Highgaurd situation. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but now that the dust has settled, we now have a fuller picture of what's going on, and unfortunately for the studio, and for Jeff Keighley actually, things are not looking good. On one side, its concurrent count peaked at 97,000 players, which you would think that would be good for a brand new IP, but not exactly in this case. See, the problem is that its retention rate has seemingly been very low. From what I've seen, it seems to have settled right around 18,000 concurrent players on Steam, which that isn't exactly a great sign only 24 hours after its release. In fact, its user reviews paints a fairly clear picture because its approval rate currently sits at just 35% with more than 17,000 reviews. Now, maybe some of these reactions stems from the hate that started last month at the Game Awards, but either which way, its launch has gone pretty terribly so far, or at least when it comes to word of mouth, and if things don't pick up, this could be the next high-profile live service flop. Oh, and Code Vein 2 will be out here in just a few days, which, I mean, the first game wasn't exactly a critical darling per se, but a lot of fans really enjoyed it, and it is a series with a lot of potential. So there's been a lot of optimism around its sequel, and the good news here is that I think fans are going to like the sequel as well. But however, reviews are out, and it currently has a 72 overall score on Metacritic with a total of 65 reviews. I mean, in an ideal world, you would like to see a higher score than that to grab the attention of, let's say, non-Code Vein fans. But just reading through some of its reviews, the impression that I got is that for anybody that liked it, seems to have believed that it was better than its predecessor, but it is still a flawed overall experience. Most of its scores do fall right around that 8 or 7 overall score, which, you know, that's solid, and it tells you that most critics did at least enjoy it. So I think for fans of the first game, you're probably going to enjoy Code Vein 2 as well, but I was hoping for it to get a higher score, but at the end of the day, critic reviews don't always tell the entire story. I will be very interested to see how fans react to it when it releases on January 30th. All right, now let's just go and get into some Nintendo leaks because really there's a lot to cover today, and this all started with Walmart out of all things. So basically what happened here is that they dropped a Switch Online ad on their website, and I'll include the image here. It just showcases a bunch of games on the service, but if you look close enough, you'll notice that there's 2 games in this picture that doesn't belong. And that's for none other than Metroid Prime 2 and Pikmin 2. So, I mean, there you go. It kind of seems like these will be the next 2 GameCube titles, though when Nintendo will officially announce them, we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But the thing is that this leak has brought both excitement and disappointment at the same time. And you might be asking, why would fans be disappointed about 2 of the best GameCube games coming to the Switch Online service? And well, the answer to that is that Pikmin 2 is already available as a Switch remaster, which you can argue is actually the better way to play it. And then as for Metroid Prime 2, there was a lot of hope that it would get a remaster similar to the first game, which looks gorgeous on the Switch 1, and it also controls a lot better for that matter. And that has been a problem with some of these early GameCube editions. There has been this back and forth among fans that want remasters instead of Switch Online inclusions. I mean, even for something like Zelda Wind Waker, even though it's available via Switch Online, a lot of fans are still holding out hope that the Wii U port will eventually come to the Switch 2. And that's the thing about Metroid Prime 2. I think for a lot of fans, they would have much rathered a high-effort remaster, and preferably before the release of Metroid Prime 4, which somehow Nintendo completely botched that. Either which way, though, Metroid Prime 2 is a really good game. It's not necessarily my favorite entry in the series just because I'm not really a huge fan of its Dark World, but overall, it's still a masterpiece that should be played by anybody who likes the Metroid series. Now, as for the other Nintendo leak, though, and this one is quite extensive, so just kind of prepare yourself. I will go over some of the key points, but Nate the Hate talked about a lot of stuff, so I do encourage you to watch his full video for really a lot more information directly from him. Nonetheless, though, Nate the Hate is a well-respected insider by this point, and he claimed that a Nintendo Direct will take place in February and likely within the first week. So that means we're talking about next week, and a lot of people are already looking at February 5th as a potential air date. I mean, we'll see about all that. I'll keep you all posted as we learn more. But the more exciting part that comes from this leak is the games that he claimed could be there. And I do want to emphasize the word could. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that these announcements will absolutely happen, but he does have inside sources, and when he makes these type of predictions, that often is because he has a reason to believe that they could potentially be announced, maybe not at the upcoming Direct, but eventually, if not there. Now, however, one big partner definitely seems to be Xbox, which we've talked a lot about this on the channel. There is an expectation that Xbox will show up big this year for the Switch 2, and that not only includes Call of Duty, which we already have a lot of information that its reveal will likely happen sometime soon, but now it also sounds like Starfield could be a part of that lineup as well. So the Xbox-Nintendo relationship seemingly will blow up in 2026. It also sounds like Sega will be a big partner with games like Metaphor ReFantazio. In my opinion, this has always been a perfect fit for the Switch 2. It's an incredible JRPG, and so too is Expedition 33, which also could potentially be there according to Nate the Hate. I mean, Expedition 33 is now the leader for the most Game of the Year awards of all time, which I think that should tell you a lot right there. It really is a great game, and I think even if you don't like turn-based JRPGs, Expedition 33 is a rare case in which you should still try. And the reason I say that is because, for one, its story, its characters, and its music are otherworldly good, but also because the combat feels almost action-based at times because of how interactive its elements work. It's almost like Sekiro meets Lost Odyssey, if that makes any sense, but definitely check it out if it does in fact release for the Switch 2. And speaking of JRPGs, I know a lot of Nintendo fans are enjoying Final Fantasy VII Remake right now. I mean, I've been telling you all it's an amazing game. You're seeing that firsthand now, and we're going to talk a bit more about that in the next topic, but Nate did mention that Square Enix was considering Final Fantasy XVI for the Switch 2. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be announced next week. This could happen later on, but who knows? It is a possibility, and so too is more Yakuza games because, hey, why not? We can never have enough Yakuza. Now, Resident Evil is also going to have a big presence on the Switch 2 in 2026. Not only are you going to get Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9, but it also sounds like Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 are potentially planned for 2026 as well. And yet again, these are amazing games. I can assure you of that right now. If you haven't already played them, do yourself a favor when they launch for the Switch 2. And by the way, out of all of the leaks on this list, I probably have more confidence in these ones just because Capcom has already made it abundantly clear that they are pushing hard for the Switch 2, as they should be. Now, he also claimed that Konami has been testing Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid Delta for the Switch 2. So those are more potential announcements if they can get those working properly. And then there's the first-party games, which most of the time I would say that's the most exciting stuff because, well, it partially is. But I think because the Switch 2 is so much more capable this generation, a lot of things that we already talked about is incredibly exciting. So it's just a very different generation for Nintendo fans because you're going to get a lot of these big-time releases that are actually running properly on Nintendo hardware. I think that's really cool in itself. But nonetheless, he talked about the Xenoblade series and a definitive edition for the second game. And I like that because I think it's a great game, but at the same time, what I want is for them to just push out some higher resolution updates for the entire trilogy. Every one of these games really needs that to kind of push them to that next level, the level that they deserve to be at. But if anything, the fact that he's hearing anything about Xenoblade stuff, I think that is a good sign, if anything else. And then lastly, he believes the two big Nintendo games for 2026 will be Pokemon Generation 10 and a new 3D Mario. Now, right away, if Pokemon Generation 10 comes out this year, don't expect its announcement to be at the upcoming Nintendo Direct. Rather, look towards Pokemon Day, which is on February 27th. That's the most likely place for its announcement. And when it does get announced, I'm expecting more of a teaser rather than a full-on reveal. Now, I will talk about Pokemon Generation 10 in a future video because what we are hearing is actually very exciting and it comes from a lot of different places. I mean, it's just too much to talk about in this specific video. But as for a 3D Mario, this has been a highly speculated game and for a very, very good reason. I mean, Nintendo is launching a movie here in just a few months, and they're going to want to pair that movie with a big-time release to really capitalize on its potential. And plus, it's been 9 years since we've gotten a brand new 3D Mario game. So I'm inclined to believe him that, yeah, a 3D Mario is more than possible in 2026 with a reveal potentially for as early as next week. I mean, all in all, though, I mean, this sounds like a really exciting time for Nintendo fans, and we could get a lot of these announcements, again, as early as next week. So let me know what you all think about this. Do you think that this is exciting or not? Now, one more thing before we go, though, and I'm going to try to wrap this up quick because I know this video is starting to get a little bit long. But yes, Final Fantasy VII Remake is proving all of the naysayers wrong. This is a topic that I've talked about on the channel for probably 5+ years, and every time that I did, I would always get a comment or two that would claim that it wouldn't matter and it wouldn't sell on these other platforms. Well, lo and behold, Final Fantasy VII Remake has been killing it on Xbox and especially on the Nintendo Switch 2. As I talked about yesterday, the physical Switch 2 version sold out on Best Buy and Target and has also been the #1 bestseller on Amazon. Then on top of that, it's been topping the charts on the Nintendo eShop and has now been #1 for 5 straight days. And like I've said all along, Nintendo has always been the most important inclusion for this game because its fans love JRPGs. It just makes too much sense, and it puts Final Fantasy in a much better position going forward. However, it's also finding success on Xbox. It was just revealed today that Final Fantasy VII Remake topped out at #9 on the Xbox charts, which is actually pretty good for a single-player game that launched way back in 2020. I mean, if it would have launched on Xbox Day 1, it would have likely been even higher than that. But I think what these results tell us is that there are still a lot of Xbox fans that haven't played this game, and that's why it managed to chart in the top 10. It's also why it's so important for Square Enix to actually be a multi-platform company. There is so much more potential for them to have success by releasing games like this everywhere, rather than limiting themselves by releasing on one single platform. So first off, big congrats to Square Enix, and most importantly, big congrats to Final Fantasy fans. It's about time, and this is a great, new, promising beginning for the franchise. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.